Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and former ABC 7 political reporter Charles Thomas in for Amy J.
That's me.
The big guy and his wife, I think his wife, I don't know if she's coming to town. Who cares? The big guy's coming to town to tout Bidenomics. This wonderful new discipline within the field of economics. Yeah, right. And raise some cash for the re-election campaign at fundraisers hosted by Jelly Belly and his wife, while he does some performative bootlicking in advance of his presidential ambitions. You know, he wants to hang around.
Well, you got to hang around because you never know with old Joe.
Well, you want to hear a great riff on this? Tucker Carlson's latest installment of his show on Twitter, his commentaries on Twitter. He talked about what we've talked about in this show for quite some time, Gavin Newsom waiting in the wings. But he did it in pretty entertaining fashion about how Gavin Newsom is prostrating himself to position himself for some coup attempt or, Deus Ex Machina event that would put him in the pole position for the nomination next year.
Even ahead of Kamala.
Yeah. Kamala. Well, there's two qualities you need, and Gavin Newsom possesses them. But this is not to say Jelly Belly doesn't as well. Take a listen.
But we do know whoever that is will have to have two essential criteria. He'll have to be as shallow, ruthless, and transactional as Joe Biden is, and he'll need to have flattery skills that are so polished and advanced they'd be considered superior even in the Saudi royal court. And there's only one man in modern America who fits that description. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and perhaps not coincidentally, Joe Biden's new closest friend. I am here, Mr. President, Newsom told Biden at an event the two did together last week. I am here as a proud American, as a proud Californian, mesmerized by not just your faith and your devotion to this country and the world we're trying to build, but by your results, by your action, by your passion, by your capacity to deliver. I am mesmerized by you, Joe Biden. Imagine saying that as a compliment. You couldn't do it. Few human beings could do it. But Gavin Newsom had no problem at all. Those words rolled right off his forked tongue.
Well, JB will try to be as mesmerized by Joe Biden tonight as Gavin Newsom was recently. So wonderful. By the way, on the situation in terms of Bidenomics, since that's the topic, White House Deputy KJP, another spokeswoman who goes by Olivia Dalton, was asked about the layoffs at Ford. You know, Ford lost $34,000 on every EV it sold last year, which tapped out about $700 million in loss. You know how you make up that, Charles?
By
volume.
Volume?
Yeah, used to 34. You just got to lose more. $34,000 in every EV, and they're laying off 1,000 people. And this is what Olivia Dalton had to say about that.
Specifically talking about the auto industry, for example, Ford is saying they're laying off workers to afford the cost of the transition to EV. The first quarter of this year, Ford lost $700 million on their EV program, lost $600 million last year. So is that what we can expect with Bidenomics?
Well, I would just say, looking across the economy broadly, we're seeing signs of progress. We're seeing, as I said just a moment ago, record low unemployment, record small business starts, jobs that are coming back by the hundreds of thousands overseas as a result of private investment in clean energy manufacturing in our country.
Thousands of jobs overseas? Well,
yeah, I think she may have misspoke.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Economics, as far as people is concerned, that if it doesn't translate at the grocery store and the gas station, it just doesn't translate. And I'm telling you, I think it's a real dangerous thing to try to tag the
Bidenomics.
economy with a name like Bidenomics.
But
Man,
it's the same old economics of the left, the same old government-centric industrial policies, and if the old Reagan line, if it moves, tax it; if it keeps moving, regulate it; if it stops moving, subsidize it. There's Bidenomics in a single sentence. Larry Kudlow, by the way, agrees with you, Charles.
In the last 5 quarters or 15 months, the U.S. economy has grown by a paltry, stagnant 1%. 1%, okay? That isn't even growth. It's really a growth recession. You want to compare that. Biden said yesterday he had the fastest growth in the world. By the way, Canada to the north of us is growing at 3%. The EU is stagnant at 1%. India is growing at 6.5%. China's growing at about 4.5%. So I don't know where he gets that. The other point is we went through it. Look at Biden never talks about inflation. Not just the year-on-year inflation rate, which has come down, as you know, from 9% plus to about 5%, but the actual level of prices since he became president is up 15.6%. And that has been devastating for households. Kitchen table prices have soared. So you've got, for example, in the bottom quintile, you've got wages falling 2.3% in real terms, okay? In the next quintile, these are all lower middle class, wages have dropped 3.9%, and overall, wages have fallen 2.1%. This is the problem with the Biden economy. There's no growth, and real wages have fallen because the level of prices have skyrocketed. Energy prices are up about 40%. Grocery prices are up about 20%. This is why it's going to be a kitchen table economy. It's going to be a pocketbook election, and Biden's numbers are just awful.
For more on this, someone who mesmerizes me like Joe Biden mesmerizes Gavin Newsom. Steve Moore, economist, author of Govzilla. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, good morning, guys. By the way, I don't think I can improve much on what Larry Kudlow just said. I was on his show actually last night, and we were discussing this. But, I'll give you one statistic to top it all off, that the average household in America, since Biden entered office and since we put in place Bidenomics, the average family has lost about $5,500 in real purchasing power. When the White House keeps saying, oh, people's incomes are up, they're not adjusting for inflation. And so, by the way, adjusted for inflation over the same time period of Donald Trump's presidency, the income for the average American family was up about $5,000. So it's been a complete reversal. And talk about putting lipstick on a pig. For Biden to go around the country now celebrating Bidenomics when 70% of Americans are saying that the economy is headed in the wrong direction, people are a little bit confused by this.
Yeah, and what about the industrial policy piece of this, too? Because we have the numbers out of Ford that you just heard and that you know, of course. And then also this week, the Chapter 11 filing by Lordstown Motors, which was, the EV plant, electric truck maker that filed for bankruptcy on Tuesday in Lordstown. This was supposed to be a big success. This is from the Trump era, but it's the sort of industrial policies that have punctuated both administrations.
Well, this is so true. And, they tout about all the progress we're making on green energy. Folks, I want to make it very clear that without massive federal subsidies today, there would be virtually no electric vehicle industry. There would be virtually no solar panels, and there wouldn't be wind industry except in some specific locations. And so, if you pour money into something, and I'm not talking about some money, I'm talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, you're going to be able to erect pyramids. But the fact is, these things are not self-sustaining. And I'll give you another example. Remember the CHIPS Act? Remember that one? We're going to rebuild American semiconductor. Remember that one, Dan?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was, I forget the price tag. I think it's $80 billion or something like that. And so far, three of the largest recipients, we had something in our hotline today about this. So the three of the largest recipients of that one was a company called Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturer. The second one was, of course, Samsung. Samsung, for those not familiar with it, of course, is a South Korean company. And then the third one is something like Core, Kore. They're a Chinese company. How is this producing, helping America become the leader in semiconductors when the money is going to foreign companies?
Do we have any Hunter Biden correspondence between the? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure he's probably an investor in these three companies, and so is Joe Biden. But none of this makes any sense. I mean, look, we have dumped so much money into all of these industries, and they never get out of the infancy stage. They keep saying, "Oh, we have to, start them, get them going." No, that's not how. Silicon Valley didn't start with our technology revolution. Didn't start with government. In fact, the reason we had the technology boom, folks, is because we adopted a policy in the '90s, which basically said we're going to basically make the internet tax-free, regulation-free, and lawsuit-free, and it boomed. All we need to do is get the government out of the way. The worst thing to do is subsidize industries.
Well, we have another issue in terms of energy consumption, which is obviously the larger issue about saving the planet, for whom I'm not exactly sure, but we needed to save it. So we got the gas stove issue that's generating a pizza revolt in New York City.
Yes.
We got the limits, so eliminating gas stoves, now coal and wood-fired stoves as well in New York. We got going after the washing machines as well, got to limit the water usage there. And now dishwashers, current federal limit, as you I'm sure know, 5 gallons per cycle. We got to drop that down to 3.2 gallons per cycle and reduce the energy consumption of washing machines by 30%.
And these federal bureaucrats are so stupid because, as anyone knows, who's remember the old flush toilets and yes, with the dishwashers, guess what? You have to flush the toilet twice, so you're not saving any water. And with the energy efficient dishwashers, you have to run the cycle twice. How is that saving any energy? By the way, my friend at Climate Change Depot just did the analysis because this big story about that you can't now have the wood stoves in New York to make their famous wood stove pizzas, and he found out that you'd have to go 600 years without these wood stove pizzas to make up for the amount of carbon emissions from one John Kerry flight around the world saving the planet.
That's great.
That is a good
Perfect comparison. I love it. All right, Steve Moore, he's a noted economist. He's also the author of Govzilla. Steve, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
All right, have a great 4th of July weekend. See ya.
You too.
Bye.
And he joins us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
One of the most important decisions you can make as a parent is where you send your kids to school. But these days, it's never been harder to know which school is best. Public schools have changed a lot, and you might be thinking about sending your child to a private Christian school. But you also know that private school can be expensive, and in this economy, you might think it's not an option. Well, think again. With halfpriceschools.com, you can purchase tuition vouchers for half the price of normal tuition for private schools. For nearly 10 years, halfpriceschools.com has helped families from all over Chicagoland make the dream of private school a reality. And that can be the reality for you and your child, too. Just go to halfpriceschools.com, search for a private Christian school near you,